Hey, it's Kevin DeWitt here. Welcome to another tip, trick, technique session. In this video, we're going to talk about triggering kick and snare drums using plugins. So firstly, if you are new to my channel, new to my videos, and you like what you see, please click the thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell to be notified of all my future videos. So a lot of time in mixing, we'll get some drums and there might be something either wrong with the kick or snare, or we just want to enhance it or whatever, replace it entirely if you so want to. And we do that with a technique called triggering, where we basically just get something to trigger when a kick hit happens or a snare happens, and it triggers off a piece of software to play a virtual kick or snare. So there's many ways to do that. In this video, I'm going to cover just using a specific plugin that its sole purpose is for this function to do triggering. Right? There's other ways, and I will cover those in other videos in the future. But in this one here, we're going to look at using a plugin to do this exact function. So let's just get on it now and I'll show you how I do it. So I've got a song here and we've got a kick and a snare. So let's start with the kick. Okay, so if we have a look, I have a trigger on here. So I'm just going to bypass it. And this is what the kick sounds like without the trigger. So there's a fair bit of bleed in this one, so it'll be interesting to see how we go. So we might concentrate on a couple of spots there which were a lot cleaner. So maybe here. Yep. Okay, let's just get that out of the way. So we got our trigger here. Okay, so when we fire up trigger, it's pretty bland as it is. And what we want to do first off is actually get some samples in here. So we can layer multiple samples with this plugin. Okay, so this is not a demonstration so much on the plugin, just more the technique. So I'm not going to run through every single thing in this plugin. I'm just going to run you through the concept of how to do this. So we can go across to the browser and we've got various samples and plugin presets, etc. So we can find. So I'm just going to pull up a preset that I've got here, which basically has several kicks in it. Now, I don't use all these kicks, but what they are here for is to give me a quick sample so that I can switch between them and pick which one I find suits this song better. So these are just some of the kicks that I like. I have two presets, so this is quite a few kicks. Obviously, you can go with any kicks. You can pull up their presets, that sort of stuff, or even load your own samples in, whatever you choose. So most of these have got a couple of mics on them. So I'm always doing them in groups of two. And what we want to do first is I'm just going to pick one kick, which we've got here, which is 2 tracks. And we're going to start that process of playing it back. And what we need to do is we need to adjust the sensitivity, retrigger, and the detail to get it accurate. That's where we want to go. At the moment, we've got the mix at 100%, so we're going to be totally replacing the kick sound with this sample. So you can see a visual representation here, but you can see some of it got lost there. Now, a good way to check is to take that down. So you can hear this is a very dynamic kick drum. And you can see it. So there's some big hits there. But all these little taps here are getting missed out. So this is going to be a very hard one to actually trigger. Because for us to get to that level, I'd have to take the detail down so low and adjust the sensitivity. Adjust the re-trigger a bit there. Okay, so to give you an idea of what it's doing, so you'll see the detail here is bringing in these two lines. So it's determining at what level the signal has to go above for this to determine that it is a kick and it's going to replace it. Anything that falls below these lines or just in it will not cause this to trigger and play a kick. So it'll assume it's some sort of bleed. So you can see why I was saying I had to go pretty low with this song. But if I don't go low and I go there, if I put it on mix, we don't get any of those. So if I want that, I have to go pretty low. Problem with that is when you go that low, there's a good chance that this will actually trigger on snares and all the other stuff that's not in there. So the other setting was the sensitivity here. So if we go down here, we don't basically get anything. As we wind the sensitivity up, it starts to pick up all those notes. And we could go even further, and it might go a bit too far. Now the other setting is the re-trigger. So this is a good way, if you have to have very tight sensitivity and detail, this is a good way to try and avoid mishits where there's maybe a snare or something coming in there. And what we're doing is we're delaying or stopping the plugin from being able to re-trigger too quickly. So it's not doing like real re-triggers. It'll go duh and skip, duh, skip. And that depends on this setting here. So you can hear if I go really quick, you start getting a lot of double hits there, which are not right. So if we slow it down, now the other risk you've got is if you go too slow, you might miss some. So let's just go with that for the moment. It's pretty good. So, okay, so we've got, if we go to 0 mix, it's our original kick. 100%, that's our replaced kick. Now we can blend it. So we can take a portion of our original kick and a portion of the new kick and blend them together. So we get the best of both worlds. We're getting some real world drums and some samples. So if we go back to 100%, you can hear what each of these drums do. Now I might want to try a different sound altogether. And we can obviously tune these as well so that they tune to the actual note of the original kick drum there, which is a good idea to do because they've recorded that kick to sound like that. So you want to try and sample it to the same tune. Okay, so the best way I have found to do that is I basically bring up some sort of EQ or some sort of spectrum analysis that has a graphic here. And if I play the kick, we play the original kick, I sort of look for where the fundamental is of that kick, roughly, as it's doing the hits. which is basically the peak. Now we can pick and choose here. It's either a G sharp or let's go with an A flat there, but then it drops a bit there. So it's somewhere there between a G and an A. Then what I do is turn that fully up to there, full mix. And then I want to see if we're getting the same value. And this one here looks like it's a bit lower. So first thing would probably be to pick the one you want. It's probably a bit low, that one. Let's just go with our first one here. So it's pretty low, the original. Let's try and get one right. Alright, so it's not perfect, but let's just say it's about there, okay? It's obviously a lot brighter, this kick. I'm just trying to get the note the same. So because our original is sort of low, thumpy, and our new one is sort of more of a top, bright one, that gives us the advantage to blend the two together to give it a little bit more power and a little bit more of the best of both worlds. So let's start with the original. Start to blend a bit in. So let's say we go with that. Now we can obviously mute this. Okay, so there you go. That's with the kick. That's how we're going to trigger with the kick there. Okay, so we can obviously make these drums sound a lot bigger than they originally were, or however you want. If you've got a very thin kick and you want to give it some low end, you can trigger another kick and give it that low end thump to go in there. Now let's do the same thing on the snare. So first, let's bypass it, have a listen. Okay, very toppy, sort of tight snare sound. So again, we can bring up any sort of preset we want. Okay, so let's pull up a preset here. So we've got one here. And we'll go back to our trigger. So I'm going to pick these two here. I'm not going to go through the list again. I just used the same process, just stored a few samples that I like. We've got this nice Black Beauty one here. Okay, so let's put it to 0. Just have a look at our... See, now there's quite a few ghost notes on this one, so it's going to be a trick to whether we can get those, and I doubt we will. We're not going to get these little ones here. Okay, so now let's wind up the mix and have a listen. Not bad. As I said, you're not going to get those ghost notes in there. So this would be a very good one to blend a little bit in, because you really want to get those ghost notes coming through. Okay, now this is probably not the best snare for this sound, because this is a massive sort of snare. But let's blend it and see what we get. So if we bypass it, so the other thing I like to do, just out of interest here, is I generally like to duplicate the track. And what I'll do is I will keep one original. So we'll turn that plugin off. And then I will take the other one and have it fully wet. So total replacement trigger. And then what I like to do is then blend the two together with a fader. So let's say we want to have the original as the main one, and the re-trigger one, we're going to blend a bit of that in. Now, the advantage of having the two separate here is that we can obviously apply different effects. We can put different reverbs on each one, or if we need to, instead of it being blended on the one track. Plus, if you're finding your snare's a bit low in volume and you can't get enough out of it, duplicating it and having the two separate means that you can give an instant sort of volume boost as well by blending in this second one here. So we could do this. And what you could also do then is that you could actually automate this. So you could say, I only want to add this trigger track in during the choruses, in the verses. I'm just going to stick with the original snare. So you could just mute and unmute this track as you see fit through the song. Okay, so you can see there that this is obviously a lot simpler sort of process than it is to do the drums manually, but you obviously are dependent on this plugin. You have to buy the plugin. You still have to have samples, but the good thing is with a plugin like this, it comes with them, or you could purchase additional add-ons. And it depends on the track. You can see there with the ghost notes and all that stuff, you're not going to get them in. But then again, you probably wouldn't have done a good job manually doing that either with all those ghost notes, because they were so subtle and so, tight that it was going to be very hard to be able to manually even replicate that with triggers. So, you've got to pick and choose your battles there. this song here probably would just pay to stick with the original snare and not trigger it. But you can see in a chorus there or something like that where maybe it is the big hits, you could bring in a trigger to give it even more power. So there you go. That is how I trigger kick and snare drums using a plugin. Let me know what you think of it in the comments. Do you use this technique? Do you not? Not really looking to get into a debate of whether to actually do triggering, replacing drums or enhancing them. That's a totally different argument. This is more about the process than the actual concept of whether you should do it or not. So, but you know, either way, feel free to put something in the comments if you want to discuss something. If you have any questions about this or anything else, please, again, feel free to put it in the comments. Love to help wherever I can. Again, if you like what you see here, please click the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell to be notified of all my future videos. Your support is really appreciated and it really does help me to continue to make videos like this going forward into the future. Hopefully the video has been helpful. I thank you for watching and I will catch you in the next one.